Good morning, everyone. It is early 1 o'clock a.m. in Taiwan. I hope everyone is doing great today. Today, our topic is something exciting. It's pursuing your dreams. Have you ever wondered what life could be if your dreams turn into plans? And what if your ambitions weren't just aspirations, but a roadmap to fulfilling reality? Now, this is hard because when I was young, I wanted to be a pilot. And therefore, now I'm not, but I'm an educator. So, life changes, life change what you dreams about, but let's talk about it today. So with our guest today, I would like to invite, we have Jonathan Taylor.
Thank you.
Welcome, Jonathan Taylor.
Thank you very much. Happy to
Uh,
be here.
thank you for coming to the show. Would you introduce to us a little bit about yourself?
I'm a solo classical guitarist that's toured all over the world. I have 32 albums. Right now, I'm with Hit Lab and Warner Brothers Records. And I pretty much toured most of the world.
Wow.
Uh, and as I was, what should we say, one of the aspirations of my life since childhood was to be a classical concert artist. And that's what I have done and am.
When did you start having that dream to be a classical guitarist? Some
Well,
people
when I
have
was
dreams when they're
sure.
young, but
Yeah.
what about you?
Well, when I was about four, I would have a ukulele and I would pick out tunes and hum around the house. So that's a very early thing. About 10, I started to really study guitar. 10 is in the bio because the four, most people don't believe things like that. So
Mhm.
I said, just leave it. So I started very early. My grandmother was a silent film organist.
Oh,
So therefore, she played with all the people of that era. There's 100 years ago, more than 100 years ago. Uh, she knew and played with and worked with the Keystone Cops, Charlie Chaplin, Harry Houdini. She played many gigs with Houdini
wow.
because, you know, he would come out. Let's say she was in the Pacific Northwest. She'd be up there at the Fox Theaters, the Orpheum Circuit that Mr. Fox owned. And then he had her come down here to Southern California to open the Wilshire Theater there on Wilshire Boulevard in
Oh,
1930. And so she opened and did many gigs with also with Lon Chaney. And people say, well, what do you mean? I go, well, think about it. Lon Chaney, they have a film. It's an opening. It's red carpet at Grauman's Chinese Theater or wherever it is. And I go, and also if it's like Houdini, you're accompanying um, the drama of him getting out of the water tank chained, right?
mhm.
Is he going to drown, right? So da da da, and so I grew up in a musical environment.
Would you say she's your inspiration for you to be who you are now?
No,
No.
I would say, and my grandmother was great. Two things I say is that everything I am or ever hope to be is because of my mother and my grandmother.
Oh,
And I have we had I put her in the ground at 100 and put my mother in the ground at 97. So they had long, very wonderful lives, very interesting and out there. My grandmother was also very well to do. Not that I grew up with money, I didn't,
mhm.
but she was for her era. I go, oh, she was very well to do for that era. Entertainment always goes hand in hand with a depression, right?
Mhm,
So the
mhm, mhm,
depression
mhm.
era, I go, oh, entertainment always has big money made because people want to escape the environment, the
Right,
economy.
right. Escape the reality of life. I mean, things are
That's right.
difficult. Right.
Yeah. Did
Wow.
that
Okay.
answer your question?
Yeah, yeah, it does. Yes, yes. So because for example, like most people, like I would say, traditionally, people don't fall. Well, apple doesn't fall too far from a tree. So like people will be in a good way. We're gonna say this in a
Right,
good way.
sure, sure. Right.
Uh,
But my mother, you know, was not musical,
right. Okay.
and that's her daughter, right? So, but her grandson, me, was. And so, if you're asking who really inspired me to play guitar, it was really Andre Segovia. I heard early recordings of his and saw him perform at the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion at the age of 16. I couldn't believe the technical prowess and the beauty of his music, of course. And so it's a mysterious path when one says how does one come from being an audience member
Hmm. Hmm.
that is a listener to be wanting to become that thing,
Well,
right?
that
And
is, that
so,
is interesting to say because, for example, like my parents or my dad was a banker, and later on in life, my mom was a banker as well. Um, but
sure.
I should be a banker in some sense, if we say it that way, but I wasn't. I was an educator, like you saw someone that's encourage you to, well, something that inspire you, like a musician. Like in my case, I didn't see a teacher that I liked in my school life, so it wasn't that case. It was more like I want to be that teacher that was involved with some of my students' life, because none of the teachers that I had in my entire school life were any impact on me or impact on my education at all. And in that sense, I felt like I wanted to be a teacher that is inspired by people. Like I've seen
Well, that's
movies and
probably a
stuff,
blessing in a way for you
right?
because now you're more entrepreneurial to be able to do that. I believe in self-education as well. My
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
education is even though I've been to I studied with the greatest artists in the world. I studied at Chapman College and scholarship and all these things, and represented America as America's musical ambassador in foreign lands to. Uh, do concerts and master classes and touring, etc. But what you're doing to be an educator now, in my view, I really don't see the reasons for many of the schools. And what I mean by that is that I agree the professions, lawyer, engineer, medicine, these things, but with the internet, you literally have 90%, let's say, or 85% of
Mhm.
the information that human beings have produced. You
That
can
is
go,
true.
yeah, and you can go to that wall in, what is it? It's Warsaw, New York. One of the universities has a wall that has the equations, Maxwell's equations, or Babylonian script, Pythagorean theorem. I go, well, that's a litany of what we really know. There's
Mhm.
speculation, and then this is what we actually know and have verified. E equals mc squared, of course. All the things that pushed or advanced people. And I go, well, right there, it's telling you. And so, what do you want to know about Maxwell's four equations, electromagnetism? I go, well, you Google it. I go, you'll have a video on it. You'll have a paper on it. You'll have a breakdown. And so I go, well, now when people say, I need to go to school, I go, open your computer. There's all
Mhm.
sorts of things too. I mean, Khan Academy. Let's say you wanted to study geometry, or I go. It's all right there, and you just go through the steps. And I'd say most of it is free, so you
That
don't
is
need
true.
to
Yeah.
come out with $100,000 debt,
Mhm.
to Harvard, right, or whatever it is. And I go, why? You can read the Harvard classics. I go, you can read Francis Bacon. You can just open it. You get a free PDF,
Mhm.
or get the Audible of, let's say, Herodotus histories, or the Peloponnesian War, and Sparta, and whatever it is you're interested in or want to study or want to explore. And you'll find that I go, well, it's pretty much all there. That's
Mm.
not true with classical guitar. There's still not what I call a coherent, true, 100% accurate pedagogy like there is for piano or violin or other instruments. But I go, well, in most cases, it's there.
Well, I will agree to you with some extent, but because I don't want to get fired from my school.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
just
Oh,
kidding.
you work
But
at a
yeah,
school? Okay.
no, no. So what I'm trying to say,
Well, I
what
know, and I'm not trying to take them. I'm not trying to say anything negative. I'm just saying that this is what exists now. That didn't
I
exist 30
understand.
years
Yeah,
ago.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say is that because I feel like sometimes schools are like that generally. Like because I teach high school kids, so kids go to school in high school, and most of them don't want to be there. I mean, they could spend their time in doing other things that is more progressive to them in their career or in life in general. But I feel like sometimes school is not only for that. I mean, it's for the experience that
Oh, I
you
agree.
meet other
Socialization.
people. Yeah,
Yeah.
socialization,
Sure.
because people in
Absolutely.
general needs to socialize. Because I feel like that right now, of course, there's homeschooling and stuff. They're amazing, but with the homeschooling, they missed out on the part that is
That's
socializing
true.
with other
That's true.
children your
But they
age.
also don't get indoctrinated. At
Well,
least they don't get indoctrinated from one standpoint. And
mhm,
the thing about um, when you have any piece of information, you must assess its objectivity. You
mhm,
must assess what does it have at least a foot in truth, let
mhm,
alone the whole thing, and what is the point of it?
mhm. And,
You know,
and
so
and for that also, well, I would add into that as well. Schools need to have good teachers for one. For example,
oh,
if
absolutely,
you have terrible teachers, obviously your school life
sure,
or my school life that I had is not so impactful. And so, if there are teachers who are in the school who are actually educating students for the sake of educating them, and then those students will gain all kinds of exciting stuff. Like for
sure,
example, in my class, recently, well, this was last year, and I found out that some of my students have interest in guitar and stuff, but they don't have guitar. They never touched a guitar before, and so I took my guitar, uh, put it into the classroom, and said, "Hey, here's the guitar. I can't teach you because I'm not good at it, but here's a guitar. If you want to play, go ahead and play." So occasionally, I see two of my students will go there and pick up the guitar and start playing. Eventually, one was actually pretty musical talented, and he could actually play lots of different songs in his head. I'm like, "Wow, how did you do that?" And I was like, "Amazing." It's just things like that. I hope one day, the students will look back and say, "Oh yeah, I have a certain interest, and my teacher sort of picked it out and had it there and gave him some kind of a spark." So that's
then
that's
you'll
how
be
I
a
feel as an
teacher.
educator.
Then you'll be a teacher that is remembered fondly and with reverence and in a place of honor, because what you're doing is you're presenting, not indoctrinating, which is different.
Hmm.
To present and say, here is this instrument, whether it's guitar, whether it's something else. I go, well, now the person has to also make a step toward that.
Hmm.
Otherwise, they have to have that as well, right? They
Right,
have
right,
to,
yeah, yeah. I understand. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, my idea is give them something out there. Have them have a feel about it, have a feel with it, and then eventually they find something they want, and I will. If I can help them, I will help them. Just like with my kids, I told my kids what they want, and if they really need it, if they really want to try it, then I will purchase it and get them classes to learn or whatever, and then see how their interest. For example, I have three kids, right? My oldest son, before, when he was younger, he told us he wants to play piano. I was like, great, get you a piano, and then piano
sure.
lessons. And they're not cheap, for example.
No,
And in the early stage of, let's say, elementary or junior high school, he stopped getting interested in it, and he doesn't want to do it anymore. So he's just like, I don't want to do it anymore, and like he quits, right? So I said, fine. So we'll stop the lessons, and then you can go on and do whatever else you want. So he jumps from violin to flute, and then eventually, out of nowhere, like no one tells him to play or anything, he just picks up the piano and start playing songs that he likes. And then now he's doing his own TikTok and Instagram with all his music that he plays. I'm like, and he's enjoying it for himself. I was like, wow. So that's great. And the same with my second son, like his interest in drums. And so I was like, okay, you like drums? All right, let's get you a drum, and then get you teachers and see what happens from there. And then of course that dies out, but then occasionally he picks it up and just to play it with his own, is like escaping reality and enjoying himself, right? So
there are many false paths to finding your true will. In other words, you may have to go up the mountain, go halfway, and go back down because that wasn't your way. And I go, the only thing you can do in life, when people talk the term success failure, I kind of laugh at that paradigm. And here's why I mean that.
okay, yeah.
I go, success failure. Let's think about what that is. There's a wonderful movie years ago with John Voight and Eric something that is called Runaway Train. And the guy, the two convicts escape prison. The warden's a brute, and they steal a train. And now the warden comes down to arrest him, and he ties the warden, who was brutal to him,
Mhm.
that they're going to crash into something and they're going to die. And the warden is going, "You're not winning. You don't win." And the John Voight says, "Win, lose, what's the difference?"
Hmm.
And the point of that is, I tell people when, "Oh, I don't want to make a mistake in front of Jonathan," I go, "Please do, and get that crap out of your head." I go, "You do the mistake first, and then you learn." And I go, "It takes maybe 6, 10 times at
Mhm.
least to do something that you have never done correctly." And so I go, those patterns are eternal. There'll always be that in life. It's not the success or failure, it's the courage to continue,
Mhm.
to pursue, to persevere, to overcome the obstacles presented to you. In the case of classical guitar, to refine, one's technique. People say they refine the music. I go, you haven't refined any music at all. You refined yourself. I go, that's what you refined. I go, the music is right there. It's Bach. I go, there are the notes. Do this, blah, blah, blah. And I go, what you have done is improved your condition. And what does that do? I go, well, it's like burnishing and polishing the stone. Now you have a beautiful diamond, right? Where
Mhm.
before
Mhm.
it was
Mhm.
a crude, rough edged and all that
Mhm.
stuff.
That just refine yourself. I like that when you say refine yourself. Yeah,
Mhm.
because nowadays children or younger generations, they give up too easily on certain things. Like
Then they will be slaves.
right. So,
Then they will be slaves in life. And that then is the payment for giving up.
right.
And I don't mean that brutally or to harm or pejoratively or to disparage, but to say, well, this will be the result of that. Trust me, I'm older than you. I've seen it. And I go, you don't want that. Nobody wants that. Everyone wants prosperity. And it's a matter of degree with how they want to work for it. I go, they want certain things. And I
Mhm.
go, nobody wants to be in this subordinate position.
For sure, like because it, it's like you get despair immediately after you didn't get what you expected, and then you feel like this is not going to work, and you slowly give up, and that's terrible. I mean, it's not only for younger generation, I would say, but it's just some in older people as well, like adults. Sometimes they feel that way. Like when I started my podcast, I had a good start, and eventually sort of fade out a little bit because I've had this mindset that if I don't have any audiences, like no one's listening or watching, why should I be doing it, wasting my time? But I had to rethink the reason why I did it. And the reason why I did it was to keep a record for in the on the net, or for my kids when they grow older, they can look back and say, oh, this is my dad. My dad's keep talking, he's giving advices, he's
And
learning.
you build an audience. You
Yeah,
don't, your audience just doesn't come, you build an audience. So before, you're putting the cart before the horse. You do the show and then you
exactly.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and then you build the audience. I have to record the album first before putting it on Spotify or whatever, right?
Of course. If not, no one's gonna know who you are and
Yeah.
listen to your music. Yeah, I do want to ask you though, because right now you have achieved you have reached your dream, and you're still doing it. Like you're still playing, right? So I want
All
to
the
know,
time.
like, is there any time in your life, like in the process, in the journey, that you get kind of stuck, like you don't want to do it, and then what keeps you going?
Well, I think that you get early on. By the time I was in my late 20s, I had the technical prowess of the major players in the
Mhm.
field. But you don't have the seasoning, let's say, that Segovia has because he's 90. And but you get stuck, you can reach a plateau. I can say that in my early 20s, I had reached a plateau, but then I was fortunate to be accepted by Pepe Romero to be a private student at his house for 5 years. So I studied with absolutely one of the greatest players of the last 150 years. And so you have to keep knocking down. I think there's nothing more than throwing something on the wall, as they say. I don't
Mhm.
think in life there's anything other than that. I go, there's only effort, and then the chips fall where they may. Did your effort prove fruitless? Yes. Well, let's examine why. And so I don't believe in you stop here or you win and lose and all these. I go, well, life is a continuum. It keeps going, and then you pass away. What happens afterward is subject of many belief systems. Many people think one way, other way. So I think that the only thing you can do is persevere and try. And the idea of giving up, I go, what does that mean? I go, what does it mean? He goes, oh, you're going to stop doing this? Okay. And do you want to pursue something? That's fine. Do something else. And, but the idea that you don't pursue your dream, I go, then you kill yourself. I mean, then it's suicide. It's like you're killing the better part of yourself, the high aspirations, as long as it's a noble purpose. I mean, not to be a bank robber, a child molester, So, but I mean, to be something good and noble and, whatever that field is. Think about a great doctor, a great scientist, And I go, well, a doctor has 8 years of medical school. And I go, you don't get licensed here without it. And so you have to pursue that. And like you said, some people give up. But maybe that wasn't their true will. Maybe their will is something else. I want to be, a theater director.
So how do people find their true will? Like when you mentioned true will?
Boy, that is a difficult thing, because if it were easy to find, nobody would need to even mention those words, because it would be apparent. That I think you have to explore many different pathways, and many of them will be wandering that will be fruitless. And I believe that's part of the journey. Now you know where not to go. So the famous story, Edison, 1,000 tries for the incandescent light bulb. And they go, well, they generally think about the story of inspiration. I go, it's a story of perseverance. It's a story of, okay, that didn't work that way. Now let's try it this way. What was the issue? The filament. The filament kept burning out as the electricity went through it. Oh, what are we going to do? We'll put it in a vacuum. We'll seal it so the oxygen doesn't interfere with that. And then try different metal. This metal didn't work. This metal, now this alloy. So the tungsten bulb ultimately, and what was the difficulty? I go, in a few hours, the metal would melt and burn out, and therefore your light bulb was a few hours. Well, they kept improving, refining, and ultimately you had that big discovery, right? Think of how dark the world was 150 years ago. It was dark. I mean, what was that? There were the gas lamps in some of the cities. Those things blew up all the time. Those things blew up. The sidewalk would blow up. And I go, but the world was very dark before that.
Like some people would even say that, well, will go to the lengths to say that he was actually like persevering, right? But he'll be kind of lucky in the sense that he found that one. Like he's
the harder I work, the luckier I get. That's Thomas Jefferson.
Okay. So and, in that sense, let's pick that up, because you mentioned that you tutored under Pepe Romero, right? And
yes.
So would you say that was kind of like a coincidence that you met him?
No.
Or you were lucky that you met him? Or
no,
hard work?
Cool. I don't believe in luck. Okay. What did I do? I said to myself at that young age, and I had already contacted Christopher Parkening, one of the major players on the planet, and I studied a master class with him. I studied with Frederick Note, but let me talk about Pepe Romero. I knew I needed to study with one of the top, either Segovia, which I've met Segovia a few times. I did not study with him, but I met him and spoke with him. He actually gave me some pointers. But what I did is I said, well, I thought I'm going to pursue Pepe Romero. I heard him play at Fullerton Plummer Auditorium in Southern California University. And I found out that at that time, I was teaching at the Newport Institute of the Arts. And I found out a female student of mine had her first kiss by Pepe's brother, Angel Romero.
Wow.
And I said, what? and she said, oh yeah, I was 16, and those families knew one another. And I said, you are now going to introduce me to Pepe Roma. I would like you, please, to do that. So she introduced me to him. I auditioned, and boom, I went all weekly, all the time to his home in Del Mar. I lived in Orange County, Huntington Beach area,
Hmm.
in Southern California. I don't know if your uh, audience knows those areas. And so that is the true story of how I got to study with Pepe Romero.
It's just that's a good start though. So you had a plan already. So when you were younger, right?
It
You
doesn't
want.
matter what my plans are. The best laid plans of mice and men soon go awry. It doesn't matter what my plan is. What matters is that I have that objective, and
Mhm.
you make a plan maybe, but then you adjust. Uh, Um, Quantum mechanics showed us that the order that we think things are in is not really the order they're in.
Mm.
That we just think those orders are there. And then I go, well, the classic, you can't know the direction of if you look at it this way, and you can't know the is it a particle or a wave? You have all those different, what should we say, paradigms. And I go,
Mm.
well, ultimately, all you can do is move forward in the direction that you think is going to give you the best result. And as results come in, you adjust
Mm.
and you see it differently. So I don't believe that I have any luck. I don't believe in those ideas because it's not random.
Mhm.
I had a I had a mission, right? I went after it. Did it come in the way that I thought it would? Hell no, it never does. Because if you're standing in the place where you want this because you don't have it, you probably won't know the pathway to get there.
Mm. Like I mentioned a couple of times to my students as well. Like, well, I would say in a way that, because as I'm a father, so I have a responsibility, and my responsibility is to take care of the family, provide for the family. And in some cases like that, I always think about the jobs that I take sometimes. And my students sometimes ask me, why do I do this? Why do I do that? It's like, if I don't do this, who's gonna feed my kids? Are you gonna feed my kids? Right. So I have to do jobs or do things that maybe hard, but I have to do it. All right. And so, right, for example, right now I travel to work 45 minutes every day, like to and fro, 45 minutes there, 45 minutes back. And
Yeah.
for some people, that's a lot. That's a journey, right?
Yep.
So I said, well, for one, I need to work. And, if I do this, my family gets fed, they get food and food on the table and stuff like that. So it's like I have to do it. So because I have to do it, it's a responsibility. I'm not gonna stop doing it. Like I told them as well, you are students. Your responsibility for right now is to learn, to study, to get better at it. But if you don't do it, who's gonna do it for you? Like who's gonna study for you? Someone else studying for you will not even help you, right? I mentioned to one of my students actually today, like she said she hates studying. I was like, fine, then I know you like business. I know you want to make money. So in this case, why
And
not?
be ignorant. If you hate studying, then you have declared and made a choice that I am going to be ignorant of um, War and Peace by Tolstoy, which is showing you the impact of war and showing you great lessons.
Well,
And I go, then you will be on low on the totem pole.
right, I understand that because they're students, right? They're younger, and so when students are surrounded by good things in life, they tend not to think about the bad things that could happen. So I
Right.
mentioned to her that you need to find what you like to do. If you like to do business, I know you like to do business, like you want to make money and stuff like that. That's important to you. So let's figure out, like, you need to work on your math, like memorizing math or doing some certain formulas that can actually help you to progress. So I gave her some examples and how she could figure out, like, in the end of the future, you can make money. But like, there's a lot of people who spend their time on stocks, investing, and make a lot of money. They're not just going on the, pay money and get the stock and be successful. No, they
They're
have to study.
studying Bill Graham like Warren Buffett did
Right,
and doing value investing or maybe technical analysis.
right, right, yeah,
But,
yeah.
but you're absolutely right. Also, I don't believe you can find what you like. That idea, I think, is almost an abrogate idea. In other words, you cannot know what you like until you go through things. So when people say, I don't like to do that, my answer is, so what does that mean? Is that what's necessary? I mean, is that what
Mhm.
we need to do or you need to do to get somewhere? I go, then why would it matter if you like to do it or not like to do it?
Mhm.
That's a totally irrelevant proposition. And the more you try things, you must try things new to you. And the greatest defeater of humanity is the comfort zone. The comfort zone is doing everything that you know in your little world. And I go, you must do something courageous every day. You
Mhm.
must do something to build up the strength of your character in order for you to persevere through the obstacles necessary for you to reach your desired goal. I'll give you an example. I'm
Okay.
touring in India and I'm in Calcutta. Jesus Christ. Okay. So it is the most poverty as an American and you as a Taiwanese living in the Western society or where you live, a very sophisticated, very wonderful group of people. That if you, I walked down the streets of Calcutta at midnight because I knew it would be a hotbed of criminality and filth. And I did that because I knew if I could prove my courage to myself of entering the devil's den, so to speak, right? In other words, if I'm entering into, knowingly entering into a dangerous situation, I go, that will improve my strength and my courage. So I did that. That was a little test I made for myself. Now, could it have gone the opposite way? Everything was fine. I had actually criminal follow me back to my hotel, but I admired him because he saw me as a way out of his dilemma. And I go, well, went to the front desk. He wants to come up. I go, no. And I go, but tell him I admire him profusely for trying to find a way out of his dilemma. And I was the symbol of that to him. So I believe that people must build. There's an old saying, character is destiny.
Hmm.
And if you don't build those things, I go, well, then what's going to happen when you're confronted with some crummy situation that you hate, that's going to occur? And I go, if you don't think that's going to occur, you'll be the only human being in history it didn't happen to. I go, you'll be unique in all of human history. So uh, you're going to need those tools and those skills. And now they're so available. I'm amazed. I can remember when I first, in 95, I went to a buddy's house. He was a stockbroker.
Mhm.
And so he managed portfolios and that. Jonathan, I've got this new thing called the internet. And I go, oh, what's that? And he goes, well, the computers, they talk to one another. I go, well, why do you want to do that? And he goes, well, I can actually talk to somebody in Texas. And I go, why don't you just phone them? Yeah. And so I didn't get it yet.
Mhm.
Well, why are you talking on the computer when you can talk on the, well, you can send these pictures. I go, okay, show me. And, but from where I was standing, I didn't see the point of it. Now look at it. It's changed the whole world.
It
You
is.
know,
It has. Yeah.
it changed the world in such a, nobody predicted this. you know Look at the commercial. Amazon, I think, is the one that got, or maybe PayPal, that got people to put credit cards to purchase items, because at that time nobody knew, well, they're going to drain my bank account if I put my credit card up there, right?
Yeah,
So
there's still that mindset of that. Yeah, there is still. I
yeah, yeah.
remember like when internet first came. Yeah, I remember that. I'm actually not Taiwanese. I'm actually Malaysian. Um,
Okay.
when I was living in Australia before, I was trying to call my dad back in Malaysia, and so in those days I have to buy a phone card to dial a
Sure.
bunch of numbers and to call. Right, and I moved to the US as well. So to call my parents back in Australia and Malaysia, it was kind of difficult because I had to buy the phone card and call and stuff like that. So eventually now it's so much easy now. I can just,
Oh, it's
get on the
nothing.
phone,
I
call.
talk to friends in England all the time on FaceTime or whatever, or Zoom or
Yeah.
something, right? And I remember
Responsibility.
going to Paris the first time, and I phoned my mother
Mm.
from a phone booth in Paris, and I could tell it was the undersea cable, right? The transatlantic cable. The
Mm.
echo was so bad, right? And the quality was so bad. And now look at it. It's all satellites, and almost communicate anywhere in the world, almost.
That's right. Well, I
Yeah.
would say this has to be someone who created this, like someone who passionate about or is their job or something, and this is it, right? This is part of their success, right? And so we are
Well, the GPS system was the tracking under Reagan's administration uh, for missiles to try and put up a missile shield, which now they have.
Mhm.
But back then, and that was where the GPS idea came from. And
Yeah.
before that, with the satellites, Arthur C. Clarke actually proposed it. I think that's what got him his knighthood to the Queen back in the
Oh,
40s. And, they had radar, the Brits too. And I go, well, it's got to start somewhere, as you're saying, its
mhm.
origins.
I actually met a guy. I forgot his name, so this is terrible. I'm bad with names, but I met this guy. He had this idea how to put like credit cards or like a machine to charge credit cards or debit cards, and if you swipe the card, you can pay your items, pay your bills. So he had this idea, and he came up with this idea. He went around to shops and stuff and tried to sell his idea. Of course, at first he had to pay a lot of money. He told the shops, you just pay a little bit of money, and then, well, you don't, what did he say? Oh yeah, you don't have to pay any single money at all. You just have to take the stuff and the machine and do stuff
Right.
like that.
Merchant services. Yeah.
Right. So he eventually, each time someone charge, he gets a little bit of money. And so even now he's retired. Like he said, he retired long ago, but still he gets money. Like anytime someone uses a machine, he gets money. So he started from something tough. I mean, I bet in those days he mentioned that it was tough for him because it was a new idea and no one wants to
Mhm.
do it. And it
Right.
was he well, it's a
I'm
huge
sure.
debt in front, a huge debt, and then it was
Right.
kind of hard, big risk, right? So
And now
it
he
kind
has
of
a
helped me to
fungible
think.
asset. Now he has an asset that is paying him cash flow all
Yeah,
the
yeah,
time,
that's right.
and
But
good for him.
it
Happy
could
for him.
backfire though. Anything a big risk could backfire for a long time as well. And so uh
Absolutely.
and then
That's why
if
the
it
space
backfire,
shuttle blew up, right? That's
right,
why
right.
the space shuttle blew up twice. They didn't want it to blow up.
No, no, of course not, right?
Yeah.
It's just like recently, what was it? The uh is it Test? Is it what's that company?
Tesla,
Not yeah,
Elon
Tesla,
Musk.
but the SpaceX, right?
Uh-huh.
Their rocket blew up and stuff, like, or their spaceship blew up something, and but they're still continuing on to do it. Like he didn't give up. They're still making stuff. Like even their
There
car.
is nobody in the world that is probably more important than Elon Musk, and this is the reason why. He completely redesigned the rocket.
Mhm.
I don't think he really cares much about the Tesla stuff anymore, the electric cars. I mean, dude, the big company and all that, but I think his heart is the space stuff. He redesigned the rocket, and how did he do that? And I go, well, he took about 80% of the cost out of it. I go, the Air Force worships him. I go, you know what their budget is now? It's like, he gave them a budget, that is unbelievable. I go, how did he do that? And I go, well, we talk about space shuttle. I go, well, he hated the frickin' wings on the space shuttle. He goes, why? Because you only use them for the last 15 minutes of the flight. Because that's
Mm.
where he came up with the idea with the gyroscopic and you're landing the rocket and it's reusable. So I go, well, he hated the wings. I go, what do you don't use the wings out in space? There's no air to support it. And so I go, well, that reusable idea. I go, space shuttle is like a boondoggle in the monetarily because I go, well, it's ill designed and it cost $1 zillion. So what did he do? I go, he took a rocket apart and he would say, what's this made out of? Oh, nickel, cadmium, lead,
Mm.
steel, whatever. He goes, well, what's the price of steel? What's the price of this? Okay. Does it have to be made out of that? So I go, he reorganized everything. And I go, he reduced the cost so much. I go, well, there you go, right there. You've
Mm.
literally shown the difference between government work and what a private citizen does. I go, look at the difference, the efficiency at that. I go 80 or more percent off the cost of something. That's crazy. If you had a 15% improvement, that would be great.
Mm.
If you had a 15% improvement in something. So I go, well, that is, those rockets, that redesign. Now we'll be going back to the moon at the end of this year and not landing in 25. But I go, well, the moon bases are all, they have 3D printers that are making not runways, pads, because they don't want because Super Heavy is going to be there. And I go, the dust kicks up when you take off. It's not like the little Apollo LEM, right? That's a little tiny one. I go, well, you have giant, things. So I go, they're going to make not just the modules and the gateway, which is the space station that's going to orbit the moon. I go, it's unbelievable. And I go, half of that, it's just technology. The technology changed so much, and it's
Yeah,
so different. They can mine oxygen out of the dust. I mean, whoever thought of that? I mean, that is incredible. And I go, there's your oxygen supply. The damn dust, it's everywhere, right? I go, you'll never run out.
but that's the thing. That's the success of the people that have been persevering and been working hard. That we see their
Right.
success, and what I really like to learn more in my lifetime, as long as I'm alive, is figure out their journey, like their trials that they encounter, like because
Mhm.
everyone's getting trials, everyone's getting problems in their life, like daily. Like there are people who feel like there's lots of things going on that's not what they want in life. They cannot adjust to it, mainly because they're afraid, or mainly because there's other things that's stopping them to try. But like you mentioned, don't give up, right? Because if you give up, we're killing ourselves. We're
Identify that
killing.
that's an obstacle. In other words, your goal is, I don't know, go to the store and buy a thing of milk. All right. And you've got to know, as you encounter an obstacle on the way to that goal, you've got to know that's the obstacle.
Mm.
And it's not discouragement, but recognizing that, well, that's what is done. What was that guy in the Amazon? He put the boat over the mountain. Remember, he carried a boat. This is a true story that he went up in a mountain and drew a boat all over a mountain. And I go, imagine the obstacles he encountered. I can't imagine. I'm out here right now in Palm Springs
Mm.
with friends and filming and things. And so I can't even imagine people coming out here in covered wagons. And in the summer, it's 110, 115.
But that's it. It's
They
the goal.
overcame the obstacles. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the
I
goal
can't
that
even pregnant women on covered wagons. I mean,
it's different now, right? It's just different. Yeah. So, yeah. We have talked a lot about success and a lot of things that you mentioned. That again a lot. Like if you were to summarize into, let's say, three short points, what would you say? Like our audiences out there, for younger
for what
listeners.
is for what is success, or what do you?
Um, what we all know what is success. Like for maybe like, what can they do to get there? Like the three steps, like you mentioned before.
Identify your goal,
Right.
identify the obstacles in the pathway of that goal, and then keep trying different methods to achieve that. It's easy not the first or second try on something. And that's why in our school system, they teach the Prussian method. And what is that? And I go, well, back in the 19th century, it was like an order thing. Like you memorize this and you're given an order and a direction. I go, well, then how do you learn how to think creatively? I go, if that is true, and a lot of the school system is regimented like that, I go, well, then how do you, I go, in life, one of your main things is to overcome and solve problems that exist in your life. And I go, if I only know this one method, or if I am regimented, I go, well, then how can I take that clay and mold it into something I want. You're saying that it's a solid brick. Uh, and and so
Mm.
what do I think? I said you must identify the obstacle, and then you must look into what is the way around that, over, under, through that obstacle, around. It, it is not the issue or the problem. It is how we think about the issue or the
Mm.
problem. It is not our issues or problem. Oops, I'm getting a little light here. You know what? I'm going to turn on another light here. Oh, it seemed like it's working. Um, so I think that you have to be open-minded, but not so open-minded that your brain falls out. All right, but you have to recognize that you don't know what you don't know.
Mm.
And most people aren't willing. Many people try to fit an idea into their own narrative of what they know instead of outside their experience. I'll
So,
give you an example.
being humble, right? What does it say? Being humble,
Very
humble to
humble.
learn.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and don't think that it's going to fit into your preconceived narrative that you
Mm.
have.
Preconceived.
You're on this side or that side, and I go, well, I'll give you an example. Uh, Einstein. I'm going to turn on this other light. I'm going to 1 second because it's obviously there. We go. So if the one goes out, the other will kick in. So Einstein writes this Brown treatise, his paper on Brownian motion, on the photoelectric effect, and then special and general relativity. As a patent clerk, everyone knows, and then he publishes. Well, here's what really happened uh, with that, because everyone hails Einstein, as the great genius,
Mhm.
and I go, well, do you know what happened when he published? Yeah, they freaking destroyed him.
Hmm.
Now, what do I mean by that? The only person that thought he was something was Max Planck, and he took him under his wing, and Einstein was always grateful. And he got him a teaching gig and all that. But when he published, many of the other people were saying, "Oh, he's a crackpot. He's snake oil Sam. He's an idiot. It's wrong. Blah blah blah." Used his race like Jewish science. Oh, it's Jewish science. Like, what the hell does that mean?
Mhm.
You know. So used racial things against him, and I go, "It's either true or it isn't." you know, get off that other crap. So what does that mean? I go, well, he thought differently than everyone else. He thought completely differently. Real discovery usually goes against the grain. It's
Hmm.
not always that way, but usually it goes against the grain. And I go, well, when he did that, he changed all of, the rules and science and all that. And I go, well, he had to think very differently than the people that were, because they didn't come up with it.
Mhm.
And that's very true. So I think we have to be very open, humble, as you said. I think we have to
Mhm.
be very humble and realize that we don't know that much. And what we do know can be very tenuous. I hear people recently with the pandemic follow the science. I go, what are you talking about? I go, it changes all the time.
Hmm.
It's constantly changing. And I go, what science is to break down something and to try to establish principles, right? And it works within this range or does this. And so what did Einstein do? I go, well, his thinking broke the thoughts that didn't get anywhere or only got so far. I won't say anywhere, only got so far. And I go,
Mhm.
well, uh, what he was doing changed everything, and he got further. So that's what do I think about for success in that? Know that the obstacles may be changed in a very different way than you're looking at them. You look at them this way, and it may be a totally different thing. Be
Mhm.
open to ideas that are new to you. Very important to be open to new to you, because otherwise you don't grow. And if you don't grow, I go, well, who wants to be stagnant? I mean, do you really? Who wants that? What a boring life.
Mm.
To grow is when people say, oh, this person was perfect in history. I go, oh, that means that he never grew. If you're already perfect, I go, how is that? So it's be perfect. I go, maybe your whole job is to, at the end of life, slide in and say, woo, what a ride. And you're spent and
Mm.
you've grown and you've become many, many great and wonderful things.
I guess that's also explains like that's why a lot of people see the success in others, but they think that's them in the first place. But I always tell my students that's not it. They have to come from somewhere, and we don't see it because they don't show it. They show us their finished product. So
That's right. E equals MC squared is the result of
mm,
the other equation. It's the end one, right?
yeah, yeah. So
How did he arrive at that truth
mm,
that can be converted, that the matter and the energy are just two different forms of the same thing? And I go, wow, and it's in everything. It's in our computer. It's in this mouse here. That if you release the atoms in this, it causes a big explosion, right? So, and I go, it's everywhere.
man, I still remember the mouse we used to do the mouse bowl, and you have to clean the mouse bowl and stuff with the
Yes,
wire and everything. I'm like, oh, now he's like, oh, wireless Bluetooth, like whoever come with
right,
Bluetooth, and then it's like,
right.
so it's all the success. So yeah, so listeners out there, you heard it right. Persevere, right? Be humble, learn as we can. I want to add on to that as well. We all need to cultivate a positive mindset because there's so much negative things in the world.
And
People
get
just
out of
tell
your
you
comfort zone. Get
get out
out
of
of your
comfort zone.
comfort zone.
That's it.
Comfort zone is deadly. Deadly, deadly, deadly. Learn something that is new to you. I'll give you an example. Recently, because my geometry was so freaking bad, I started to study geometry because I said, why? Because I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And I
Mm,
want to know. I'll give you an example of why that's important to not my personal thing, but to humankind. So everyone knows that when Gutenberg had the printing press, the first book was the Bible that was printed.
mhm.
And I ask people, what was the second book?
The Bible too.
No. And here's what it was. It was Euclid's Elements. And he had like many
Okay.
books. And I go, Euclid's Elements. And people say, oh, but weren't they ignorant? I go, they were much more educated than the average person now. I go, they knew geometry. I go, that's a big freaking deal
Mm,
that they knew that. I go, why? I go, well, you can measure distance. You can measure whether this is going to work on a sphere, whether it's going to tell you the proportions. I go, it's a very important thing. Architects use it to make better buildings and buildings that'll hold up. The material, there's no physical change since the flying buttress except for materials like steel. If you didn't have steel, there'd be no size skyscrapers in the world.
mm,
I go, oh, well, it will never hold the pressure as it's so much weight. I go, the building will. There's a big difference from being the Empire State Building in New York than a grass hut that somebody puts up, a grass hut.
mm.
I go, that's nothing. And I go, to even have the steel, and I go, the steel wouldn't even have been used if it hadn't been that Andrew Carnegie had a chemist invent a new way to inject oxygen into the steel, crash the steel market in 2 weeks. I go, once that happened, you could have skyscrapers everywhere in the world. I go,
That's
at that moment, birthed.
that's the thing also with Gutenberg. Like everyone's saying, like he successfully created a printer, but at that time, what people doesn't know is what people don't really realize is the monks in those days, the church in those days, don't really like it when he did a printing thing because it
That's right.
make things easier for a lot of things,
They
a lot of
wanted the
publications.
world. They wanted the world to be fit into their narrative, which
Right,
isn't a
right,
very
right.
nice thing. It's
So
not
there's
very
gonna be
nice.
bad things everywhere.
Yeah. Well, I mean, no matter who you are, whether it's a government, a church, whatever it is, I go, well, it's not very nice to impose that on other
Mm.
people. Is that proper? Would you want to do that to your mother? Your kids? Would you want to do that? Like, I've never understood the idea of rape, and here's why. to bring up something. I go, why do I want to do that? I want the girl to love me.
Yeah.
I don't want to attack this person. I want her to kiss me. I want her to enjoy herself. I go, the idea to me is so strange. I go, why do these people want that?
Mm. Well, I won't get into that, but I would say yeah, there are other strange people out there with a lot of things, and so let's put it that way. Just put it there. There's a lot of strange people out there, but
Yeah.
in reality, guys, and everyone out there, listeners listening or watching this video right now, you know, we are going to be bombarded with negative mindset by everyone. Like if you have
Right.
something you want to think about, you want to work on, just try to focus on it. And eventually one day that will be a success. And you will look back at this, and I will look back at this in a couple 10 years, 20 years time, and it's like, wow, that has changed. That is what I was, but now I'm different. So I told my children the same thing as well. Like one day they're gonna see things differently from what they are seeing things now. It's going to be hard for them right now, but maybe in the future it looks different. So I want to thank you, Jonathan, for coming onto the
Thank you.
show, sharing lots of great insights that actually can help people to pursue their dreams and understand that life is not set on a path. Like there's going to be obstacles. They're going to be like we have to be humble in learning and adjusting to different ways to accomplish the end goal in mind. Right. So thank you, Jonathan. Do you have any last
Thank
words you
you.
want to say?
I enjoyed it. Now let's do it again. And I loved it. And you're a great presenter and a great interviewer.
Thank you, Jonathan. Well, everyone else, there I put his link to his Instagram. If you can go there, his Instagram will lead to his other links on his, and he has a guitar app. What was it called again?
Just
Jonathan.
Jonathan, if you go into, if somebody has an Android phone, go into Google Play. If it's an iPhone, you go into Apple Store. It's all free. Just type Jonathan Taylor, no break, and it'll come up. You can download the app for free. There's tons of free videos, free interviews. I have a series called Adventures in Touring and performance videos, of course, and audio files, blah, 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 blah. And it's all free. So you can do that. If you want to be a member, it's like $40 a year. You don't even have to do that. There's tons of free stuff.
Well, go check it out, guys. Go check it out. And he also has a YouTube page as well. Go check out his channel and learn more about him, Jonathan Taylor himself. Thank you again, Jonathan.
You're
I
welcome.
wish
Thank
you have
you.
a good morning. You have a long day again, all right?
Yeah.
I'm going to go to bed because right now
Yes,
it's
you
2,
should.
2 a.m. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you and goodbye. We'll
All
see you
right.
next
Bye-bye.
time on tomorrow's Jazz